Welcome back to Tunnel Vision. I'm Adam Connor-Bourne. I'm joined from Vancouver by David Scarcella and Shane Smelts. Good to have you on board, both lads. Absolutely monumental win for Australia and Vancouver over Turkey. David, you were there. Please talk us through it, mate.
Unbelievable. Every part of it, from pre-match in Vancouver City Centre, where the Aussie supporters, all 10,000 of them, taking over the city, right through to the warm-up, and every part of this game was absolutely electric. You know, I was at the 2006 World Cup when Australia got that 3-1 win against Japan, and that was unbelievable. But this tops it, or if not, comes very close. So yeah, it was an epic performance by the Socceroos.
I think arguably goes down in history as the best win at a World Cup. Let's be honest. I mean, as Scarcella mentioned there, the win in Germany against Japan was fantastic. This was probably, that was a come from behind win. You know, this is probably more comfortable, if I'm honest. Set up tactically very well from Australia. The match played into the hands, got the first goal, and then from there, with a back five and the size of Australia's defence, I don't really think Turkey hurt Australia too much, and I couldn't see them scoring.
Nesta Nkuda becomes the youngest goal scorer at Australia at a World Cup. David, just talk us through that moment when he runs through on goal 18 seconds after a shot on target from Turkey.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because we soaked up a lot of the pressure up till then. So you could see Tony Popovic had a definite way that he was trying to play. I mean, even Nesta playing very deep, very narrow, and wasn't really seeing any joy even when we got the ball and looked to break. It was definitely a sign of given a job, hey, just soak up the pressure, don't use too much energy, and when the time's right, make it count. And that's exactly what he did. And you know, we've watched him so many years in the A-League do that. You know, get in and behind, brush defenders off, and he did it. And what are we, sort of 3-4 days into the World Cup now? I haven't seen too many players in any team in the World Cup that's had that pace in and behind with that type of finish. So yeah, you should be very proud. Good young South Australian, good young Australian, and it was just amazing to see. So good.
Yeah, I think with speed, let's be honest, with speed you need spacing behind, and that suits the way Australia's set up. You could see there the Turkey centre back. He comes out. He probably didn't even need to come out. He's come out and committed himself. Maybe didn't know the pace and the power that Nesta possesses. Sold himself a little bit, and Nesta's done very well to finish it.
Yeah, I'm going to put it out there. That Tony Popovic went to the level of detail to say, hey, Nesta, tuck in, don't go too hard too early, right? And as the game develops and as it progresses, pick your time and then get in behind. It's almost like they were surprised by it. They were surprised how much pace he had. And he hadn't really showed it up to then. So, and once it was out the box, he started to do it a little bit more. But yeah, I agree with Schmelzer there. It was what a turn of pace, and one of the goals of history for Australia at World Cups. Definitely.
In that first half, it looked like Australia were undercoshed by the Turkish team. I would argue that it was absolutely the game plan. It seemed to me that Popovic had set them up to sit in, defend, hold as much of that pressure as possible, and use the pace on the break to push through. Obviously, that was the big moment in the first half. Australia defended heroically, and Beach, got to give him credit for coming in as such a young goalkeeper. He's made an incredible save and continues to play well throughout the rest of that first half. In the second half, Australia come out and start confidently, although Turkey definitely have their moments. And then out of nowhere, almost, in the 73rd minute, Conor Metcalf from outside the area shoots an incredible goal. Smelts, what did you see from that as a former striker yourself?
Another fantastic finish. You can't take away anything from the two goals, right? Great finishes. The boys will be proud of them. But it's reminding me of like Muhammad Ali, the old rope-a-dope. It's like lure them in, and then we get them on the counter. And they've done it twice. And I mean, to play that way, a lot of fans or coaches don't necessarily like to play that way. Popovic has realised this is how we're going to get results. This is how we're going to get to the next stage of the World Cup. And you have to say, looking at the group now, Australia's got one foot into the next group by playing this way. It's clever with the players that we possess, but you've got boys with speed, power. You've got Geordie Boss, who looked frightening on the left side. I think he can get up and down. I mean, he looks a level above for me. And then when you got Nesta and the likes that can cause problems in behind, you're always a threat.
David, as a former goalkeeper yourself, was the goalkeeper at fault for Conor Metcalf's goal, or was it a better strike?
Listen, I was in the active support area for the Socceroos, and all the talk sort of 20 minutes out and during the warm-up, watching the keepers was what's Popovich doing? You know, you've got Matty Ryan, who's a veteran of the game, so much experience at World Cups, and Beach, played a handful of A-League games really, and there were big question marks, but the kid absolutely stood up. You know, like maybe early doors, he got the ball stuck, sticky under his feet, and then he sort of just opened up and sort of got, he got the butterflies out, and he was sensational for me. I know Nesta got nominated man of the match, but for me, Young Beach was man of the match. And the biggest takeaway from this game is what a display of A-League players. And a lot of these
Yeah.
players are either playing A-League currently or were playing A-League, a year, 18 months ago. So it's a great advert for the league. I don't think people give the league credit for what it provides, and to see some of our boys that are doing it week in, week out in the A-League or just gone overseas come here and do it tonight on this big stage. And let me tell you, this is a massive stage with big pressure is, fantastic. So, yeah, great.
Two of the big question marks going into it were arguably Irvine not being in the centre of the park, Beach not included, obviously, in place of Matty Ryan. I think looking at it now, you go into the next game, I don't know how Tony Popovich can change this side. I think you have to almost keep the same side, keep the momentum, and I think he generally rewards players for good performances. I see going into the US with the same lineup, to be honest.
Well, I think you're 100% right. I mean, you saw Ocon Essler as well, again, with another A-League player who just played a stellar defensive performance. To go from, playing week in, week out for Sydney FC in the A-League to coming on this stage and putting in a very sophisticated performance there in a sort of holding midfield role was absolutely amazing to watch. He played well above his years, and a young kid like that should get so much credit for what he did. But I agree, all over the park, everyone did their job, and everyone did it exactly to the T. And I think Popovich will set up exactly like he has from this game. So yeah, puts us in with a good foot in for the next round. As long as we keep it tight and going to our next two performances, it makes us one step further. So excellent.
Scars, being there in the ground, what was your reaction from some of the Turkish fans? Because someone like myself who's played in Turkey, knowing how passionate they are, I think the media will be eating this alive, by the way. I think they won't be having Turkey getting beaten by Australia 2-0 in the first game.
Yeah, pre-game and probably into that first 20 minutes, really loud. They weren't necessarily congregated in a sort of active support area like Socceroos supporters were, which created that massive vibe, but they were definitely louder as a whole in the stadium. But as the game went on, you started to hear and see and feel the nerves from the Turkish supporters, and almost like a bit of frustration in the way that they were playing. They just ran out of solutions. So yeah, definitely up and about early. Definitely didn't have the vibe, camaraderie, the Aussie mentality, the Bogan mentality that we saw here at BC Stadium. But yeah, I mean, that would have been if they got one early, they would have been up and about. But yeah, we put all that to bed.
On television, you could only hear the Australian fans in the stadium. There was no inkling of Turkish fans in there, apart from the odd dotting around of people that you saw. And it felt to me like Turkey had absolutely no answers. Nothing at all. Australia were just too good. An absolute Popovich masterclass, really, in how he set that team up and how he got them to play, especially with that speed on the break and that bravery on the break. I think the big takeaway for me as well is that industry that they brought around and how much Popovich demands that work ethic from his players, and the youth allows him to do that in one way or another. Just looking forward to that next game against the US. Obviously, huge game. In America. The US looked really strong against Paraguay. Any thoughts, any feelings about how that's going to go on? David, from where you're sitting, any thoughts from the fans in the stadium about how they're feeling?
Yeah, we watched the game at the fan park in Vancouver yesterday, and yeah, agreed. US looked like superb. Pulisic wide was devastating, and just looked solid all over the park. Definitely looked a stronger outfit than Turkey looked tonight. But in saying that, coming into the World Cup, everyone was writing the US off, and Turkey was the to-beat team of the World Cup. So I think, listen, if we can get a point against the US, it'll be a great result. And then, going into Paraguay, I think we can get something out of the game. But this cannot underestimate or cannot play down how massive this 2-0 result is in your first game. It's absolutely huge, and play for in these next two games.
going into the next match, I mean, against the US, I think winning that match sets you up to obviously take out the group, right, in a big way. US will cause a different threat. They'll be a different threat. In terms of physically, I don't think Turkey impressed me at all today in terms of their physical presence. US have got some dynamic, strong forwards as well. You saw Turkey today playing around the 18-yard box and struggled to get the ball in the box, whereas I think US have got that extra threat. So it's going to be an interesting match to watch.
Well, look, that's everything I need from you guys today. Thank you very much for your time. David, enjoy your time in Vancouver. Shane, I'll speak to you again soon. This is Tunnel Vision. I'm Adam Connor-Bourne. You are David Scarcella, and you are Shane Smelts. Goodbye.
See you next time, guys.
See you, boys.